Welcome to the beautiful city of Adelaide. The 68th Annual International Astronautical Congress is kicking off, and we're here to cover it all. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to IAC TV. I'm Lisa McCaskill, ready to bring you everything you need to know from this year's International Astronautical Congress. Today we hear from newsmakers, highlight the opening ceremony and see what organisations around the world are doing to push the boundaries of space exploration. First off, we speak to Jean-Yves Le Gall, President of the IAF. So this morning I'm with Jean-Yves Le Gall, President of the IAF. Why are these congresses so significant?
Because in fact we are back to Australia. It's the first time for the last 20 years, and this is at a time which is very exciting in space activity, because we have here a lot of newcomers from emerging countries, from people coming from the new space, the internet world, and it's a right time to meet here in Adelaide.
So what happens throughout the process of this Congress?
In fact, for this Congress, we will have around 5,000 people. We will meet, we have all the heads of space agencies worldwide. We have people coming from permanent players, from well-established players, from startup companies, a lot of students, and it's a place to be during 1 week. During 1 week, Adelaide is the center of space and definitely the center of the universe.
And so what do you hope delegates take away from this Congress?
It's a global view of space activity today, but perhaps with something, a taste of modernity, because here in Adelaide a lot of things are occurring. We have a lot of dynamism, a lot of young people with new ideas and so on. And so from what I saw yesterday and the day before yesterday, I can tell you that this Congress will be very, very successful.
And so this is the 68th Congress. What's new particularly for this one in Adelaide?
We have a lot of evolution in the field of space. The cost of accessing to space is lower and lower, and now you have people developing small satellites the size of a shoebox. A few years ago it was the size of a small car, and you could imagine. And so a lot of people, a lot of young people are involved in space with new ideas, new applications, and it's a sector which is growing up very, very fast.
And so what do you think about Australia and it starting a space agency?
I think that this is an excellent move, because in fact Australia is a very great space power. You have a very prominent industry with a lot of skills, a lot of new ideas, and having a space agency will allow Australia to define a space policy and to gather all the efforts which are made for the development of space, and so I welcome this new idea.
And what do you see for the future of space?
Future of space, I think that we have 3 key points. The first one is innovation. And where you go into this Congress, you will see innovation. Innovation, it means startups, young people thinking differently. The second point is climate, because you see space is the best way to observe and to tackle climate change. When you want to define what is a climate, the status of the climate, we define 50 essential climate variables, and out of them 26 can be observed only from space. And so satellites are key if you want to observe climate change. And the third issue is of course exploration. And exploration, here you will see that everyone speaks about Mars, and it will be the next new frontier. We went to the moon about 50 years ago, and the next one will be Mars.
How long do you think it's going to take?
I think that we will have probably a human mission to Mars in the decade 2030. So in fact it's in 15 years from now. It's not so long.
Exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now Now let's take a moment to hear from Michael Davis, the Chair of the Space Industry Association of Australia, to hear about the Congress and the future of space exploration in Australia. So I'm with Michael Davis, the Chair of the Space Industry Association of Australia. Now, you've been working on bringing this Congress to Adelaide for the past 9 years, and this morning's the day and it's finally here. How are you feeling today?
Very excited, almost overwhelmed, and the government's decision to announce a National Space Agency has sort of made it a perfect occasion.
And you must feel that you've played a bit of an instrumental role in that then, pushing that agenda a little bit. Can you tell us about the process?
Yes, our Space Industry Association represents all of the private players and the universities and the professionals in space. And about 6 months ago we published a white paper which was a detailed research submission setting out all of the reasons why we thought it was time for Australia to invest in a National Space Agency. We got tremendous support from the Australian space community and the media. The media really strongly publicised the idea, and the Commonwealth Government formed an expert reference group, and I was asked to be a member of that. And our work isn't done. It will be, the final report will be in March next year. But the wonderful news is that the government has accepted the interim recommendation that there should be a National Space Agency, and the Minister will announce that at the opening of the Congress today.
It's very exciting, and congratulations. So where do you see Australia playing a part in a global space industry that's been established for so many years?
Well, we already play a part, but what we've lacked is that central government leadership. So with the National Space Agency, it will be much easier for us to collaborate with other space agencies in other countries. There'll be more opportunity for Australian companies to become part of the global supply chain in space. And we'll see more prominence to what we do in schools, universities and in industry. And we think that we can double the size of our industry within about 5 years. That should be one of the goals of the new agency.
Fantastic. And what are the themes for this particular Congress?
Well, the Congress is about security, outreach and education, and international collaboration. So it's very consistent with what we've been saying about Australia's role in space. But the Congress is the most important annual international meeting of all the world's space leaders. And there will be an incredible amount of business done here, as well as the 3,000 odd presentations and papers and discussions and forums. So it's the Olympic Games of the space industry.
And so what do you hope really that delegates will take out of this conference, particularly in Adelaide or from Adelaide?
Well, they'll learn a lot about what we're doing in Australia, and that's one of the reasons why we thought it was so important to have the Congress here. There'll be lots of new partnerships and collaborations and business done between Australian companies and our foreign partners. And we hope everyone has a wonderful time, and lots of people are also treating it as a bit of a vacation, and so they'll be visiting all parts of Australia and enjoying the natural benefits and beauties that we have in this country.
Thank you, and congratulations once again on bringing it here. It is very exciting for the state and the country.
Oh, thank you.
Now we head back to the studio to speak to Roberto Battiston, President of the Italian Space Agency. I'm with Roberto Battiston, President of the Italian Space Agency. And can you tell me about the forum you're involved with, Deep Exploration, past 2024? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, this is really the challenge which is calling the attention of all the spacefaring and space active nation in the world. Space has a tremendous potential in political, peaceful development of collaboration, international collaboration. The great example of that is the International Space Station, which has been conceived in a condition where the Cold War was still in, but 20 years after is still there, providing an environment where Russia, United States, Europe, Canada, and Japan are working together. So we have to look at that as an example, and you have to think the next step. It could be a longer journey around the moon, to Mars, through different missions, but the common language has to be international cooperation, peaceful international cooperation. We need that. We know that is looking from the Earth is up and down and not always easy, but looking from space, there are no boundary, and there is strong push, both cultural, technological, and factual push towards international cooperation, which I think has to be global. The next big space adventure has to be global, and I think all the agencies, all the countries, all the political-minded people have to work toward this direction, finding a way to allow for a real global exploitation of the great opportunity that space represents.
And do you think that's achievable in the short term?
I mean, I think it's achievable. Short term, it depends what short means. I mean, it's probably longer than the typical political people horizon. It's not something which you can do in years. Maybe you need a decade or so, but it is irreversible. We need that. This year we had the 50th anniversaries of the Treaty on Peaceful Use of Space. I think we should build on that to continue in this direction. It would be total catastrophe if we would not manage to find a way to get in deep space exploration together in a peaceful manner.
And is that where a Congress like this is really beneficial for people to meet and talk and share ideas?
This is amazing. This Congress is growing at the rate of about 5 to 10% a year since almost a decade. More countries, more participants, more industries, more universities are participating. Every year we get 15 to 20 additional participants. We're now at 360 or so. It's amazing how many people are attracted from space, for all kind of background, all kind of culture, all kind of nation, and this is becoming the reference all over the world for the future of space. It's exciting to be here, and exciting to build the next events. The next one will be in Bremen, then in Washington, and then every year we'll change location, and feel the vibrant curiosity, attention, and motivation by the participant. Is really the right place to stay in this precise moment.
It was a very exciting time. Thank you for your time today, and enjoy the Congress.
Thank you so much.
Now let's take a look at all the work being done around the world to push the boundaries of space exploration.
Space science is so important for understanding our place in the universe, but also understanding how our Earth works. Without space technology, we would have no GPS in our cars and our phones, we wouldn't have satellite communications, and we wouldn't have the Earth observation data that allows us to make, for example, accurate weather forecasts every day. CSIRO is the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, and we're Australia's largest research organisation. The SIRO owns and operates all of the radio astronomy facilities on behalf of Australia. These are collectively known as the Australia Telescope National Facility. The ATNF offers astronomers a unique view of the Southern Hemisphere sky, and it's available for use by Australian and international astronomers worldwide. The SIRO has a 50-year partnership with NASA, particularly with regard to the operation of the Canberra Deep Space Communication Complex.
NASA's Deep Space Network is a set of stations around the world at Goldstone, Canberra and Madrid. By coming together as a network, they are able to now look at the entire solar system and chart every robotic space mission around every planet in the solar system. Canberra Deep Space Communication Complex has 3 34-metre antennas and 1 70-metre antenna. The 70-metre antenna is the largest antenna in the Southern Hemisphere. This place is extremely special to the people that work here. Their roles are so vital to make sure we carry the signals from deep space. We carry them safely, we carry them with consistency, and we don't drop a signal, and they do this perfectly. They make history every day. The work we do here is playing a key part in the exploration of the solar system. The images we're getting back from Pluto, the images we'll get back from the Cassini end of mission, the images that we get back from the Mars rovers tell us something about what composes this solar system, about where Earth and us sit in this big picture of the solar system.
Astronomy and space science give us two viewpoints for viewing and understanding our universe, looking up and out at the solar system and the universe, but also looking down at Earth from space. The data we receive from Earth observation satellites enables us to learn and manage things like weather and climate, environmental management, emergency response, and resources management.
We downlink the data from a number of satellites. Most of them are owned and operated by a number of other countries, but we have access to about 120 satellites, about 250 sensors on these satellites. We manage about 1 petabyte of satellite data together with our colleagues from Geoscience Australia. We've developed with them what we call the data cube technology, which allows us to pre-process a lot of this data and organize it and clean it up very well so that researchers but also government agencies can look at changes across the landscape for a single part of the country in terms of agricultural production or flooding or coastal change and things like that. GeoGLAM stands for Global Earth Observation Agricultural Monitoring System. GeoGLAM was called for by G20 about 6 years ago to use a lot more satellite data to monitor crop production worldwide. In Australia, we said that we needed also to monitor livestock and beef production. And therefore, we've developed GeoGLAM RAP. RAP stands for Rangelands and Pasture Productivity. We're helping create the necessary decision-making information and the tools to monitor how we're managing remaining resource and lands that provide this protein and food.
CSIRO has a very broad range of capabilities that can potentially be applied to space activities. They include advanced communications technologies, sensor technologies and robotics.
A hexapod is literally something with 6 feet. What they do is they walk more gently over the Earth than wheeled or tracked robots do. They're also more agile, so they can step over things, they can duck under things and turn themselves in circles without skidding. Hexapods can go where no man has gone, where no man should go, and in the case of the smaller ones, where no man will fit. If you're on a planetary body or something similar, a hexapod can walk over rock piles and up much steeper gradients, and thus it can carry its sensor payloads to places that would otherwise be inaccessible. SLAM is simultaneous localization and mapping. It works similarly to how humans work out where they are and make a map in their mind of the room they're in, for example. Robots for exploration are only useful when they're carrying sensors, so cameras, laser scanners. With our 3D SLAM technology, they know exactly where they've been, so they can provide you with a map of where they walked. They don't rely on memory, they keep a log of everywhere they went. The hexapods are a massive step forward in taking instruments to observe the universe in which we live.
CSIRO aims to harness its innovative culture, its technical capabilities, its international relationships to support the Australian space sector and to develop a powerful innovation pipeline for the Australian space industry.
The time is now. At no other time in human history have we had the technology, the know-how, and the public excitement to get humans to Mars. We're building Orion today, right now, a spacecraft like no other designed for deep space exploration. But to get humans to Mars, we can't send Orion by itself. It needs to be part of a larger system that provides the supplies and the scientific equipment needed for a 3-year journey that will take us hundreds of millions of miles away. We call our concept Mars Base Camp.
Mars Base Camp is really straightforward. Let me break it down for you. It's an orbiting mission with 4 main sections and 2 of almost everything for backup. We have 4 large commercial solar arrays to generate electricity and power the spacecraft. For propulsion, we have 2 cryogenic propulsion stages and 2 tank farms to store the fuel, liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. Of course, the 6 astronauts will need room to live on their 1,000-day mission, so Mars Base Camp has 2 habitats and a living space to eat, sleep, and exercise. Most importantly, we have Orion. It's the command deck, with all the avionics for navigation and communications. Orion makes the whole spacecraft more reliable and gives the astronauts a safe ride home.
Because we've already started, we think we can launch this system in about a decade. Orion is already flight proven, and we are designing the Deep Space Gateway today. Soon, NASA and Lockheed Martin will launch an uncrewed Orion on the Space Launch System rocket for a mission called Exploration Mission 1, or EM1, to check out all the systems over 3 weeks in an orbit around them. After that, the next Orion flight, EM2, will be crewed. And on that launch, the SLS rocket will also carry the first elements of the Deep Space Gateway. The Deep Space Gateway is essentially a space dock where America and other spacefaring nations can perform revolutionary science and establish a lunar commercial economy. Through the 2020s, we will work with NASA to operate and assemble the Deep Space Gateway, and then build up Mars Base Camp and get it ready for flight. Finally, we will be ready to send humans to Mars aboard Mars Base Camp.
We've talked about how we can do it, now let's talk about why. Mars Base Camp is about more than humanity's greatest adventure. It's about science, answering fundamental questions that scientists have been asking for hundreds of years. Where did we come from? Where are we going? And are we alone? From orbit, astronaut scientists have access to the entire planet's surface for rovers and drones to make real-time decisions about where to go and what to examine. We can retrieve a sample from the surface for study, and we can send the astronaut crew to the 2 nearby moons of Mars for an up-close look. And from orbit, we can confirm the site selection for the first human landing. At Lockheed Martin, we've been exploring Mars with NASA from the beginning, so we know what it takes to get here, how to operate here, and how to lead the world in doing it. Yes, Mars Base Camp is a concept, a vision, if you will, but whether it's this system that gets humans to Mars or something similar, the world is at a point in time where it has the means, the ability to write a new chapter in history, sending humans to the Red Planet.
EUMETSAT in Darmstadt, Germany is an intergovernmental agency established in 1986 to develop and exploit meteorological satellite systems to deliver data for weather forecasting.
Today, we operate 10 satellites in orbit and we deliver data to 30 member states. The priority of EUMETSAT is to deliver the best observation for weather forecasting. It means we need to have the best satellites and also the best science to extract information from the observation of these satellites. It's important to understand the value of weather forecasting for society. Not only does it save lives, as everybody knows, but it's also vital for the economy. For instance, civil aviation does not exist without weather forecasting. Studies have shown that the socio-economic benefit of our satellites in the European Union is more than €5 billion per year. Since 2000, a second mission is to monitor climate change. So EUMETSAT is at a key point in its history. First, we are preparing the next generation of our satellite systems. And second, we are also exploiting new satellites on behalf of the European Union for the Copernicus program.
Meteosat, second generation, is EUMETSAT's current geostationary program, and the third generation is already well underway.
The new fleet of satellites will provide for the legacy service for the imager mission a higher temporary and spatial resolution. So with this, the observability of the meteorological information will be better. For the new mission, which will fly on the imager satellite, we will have a lightning imager. With the sounder satellite, we will provide new information on the composition of the atmosphere. In order to develop the user requirements, there was a long user consultation process in the beginning to develop the user requirements document. There is an ongoing mission advisory group for the new missions, and for the legacy services, we are consulting the users via the science and operations working groups.
METOP is a series of 3 polar orbiting meteorological satellites and forms the space component of EUMETSAT's Polar System, or EPS. METOP A was launched in 2006, followed by METOP B in 2012.
The third satellite, METOP C, is identical to the first 2 satellites, A and B, and will be launched next year in 2018 in the last quarter. This satellite, even 20 years after its design, is still a state-of-the-art in this domain. It does a lot of observations from a low Earth orbit and provides data to our users, which are essentially numerical weather prediction centers, but also climate monitoring centers. The EPS second generation, the new satellites that will be designed and the system around those satellites will continue the missions of the first generation with better accuracy. These programs generate data that have a lot of impact for the society. The programs EPS and EPS second generations are based on cooperations which are worldwide. We build our first system in cooperation with the US with exchange of instruments, data and services, and also in Europe, where we have cooperations with the European Space Agency, who is in charge of developing our satellites, but also with some national agencies such as CNES and DLR to do some development of instruments which are state-of-the-art instruments.
One satellite operator, be it national or European, cannot deliver all observations needed for weather forecasting. So we need to cooperate with the US, with China, with India, to coordinate our observing systems, to share data such that our member states in Europe have access to all data they need. And this we do in the framework of the World Meteorological Organization. EUMETSAT means 30 member states join their forces to get the best possible satellite and data. EUMETSAT is exploiting Copernicus satellites on behalf of the European Union. And these satellites are dedicated to the monitoring of the ocean and atmospheric composition. And we do that because there is a lot of synergy between the observation we deliver with our own satellites and these new observations. And it's very important for users to access all these observations together.
EUMETSAT is a user-driven organization, developing data services and constantly adapting to the evolution of the requirements of its users.
EUMETSAT produces over 100 products from our 10 currently flying satellites. We cover everything from classic meteorology, which is our core mandate, but we also address new areas such as the state of the oceans, the height, the quality of the water, the biological growth, as well as looking at air quality, which is of great importance to us around the world. EUMETSAT develops its products using the classical scientific approach, which is exchanged with specialists following scientific developments that are published in literature. In addition, and this is really a core part of our business, is to actually listen to the varied user communities that give us feedback through our help desk and those elements. And last and not least, we also have a mechanism with our member states where we actually meet twice a year to discuss the state of our products and developments.
Modern weather satellites can be used for much more things than just to support the weather forecast. 20 years ago, EUMETSAT took a wise decision. They decided to exploit the expertise and the skills that is already available in its member states, so across Europe, and to use these expertise to develop tailored products that support directly specific user communities. The satellite application facilities are in a very intense contact with the users because they have to understand both worlds, the application areas, what the users want, and also the satellite technology. So communication with the users is essential for them to work with them and for them, and to provide them the information from satellite data they need for their applications.
The vision of the future of EUMETSAT is very much driven by the evolution of forecasting. I don't say weather forecasting because today forecasting is much more than the weather. So the vision of EUMETSAT in the future is to deliver seamless observation of the ocean, the atmosphere, the atmospheric composition for integrated forecast of weather, air quality, ocean.
UNSW Canberra Space is Australia's leading space capability. Our vision is to be Australia's space go-to and trusted partner to help tackle key national and international challenges and opportunities. UNSW Canberra has invested significantly to build a very large, world-class team of space scientists and engineers. If we put that team together with 5 funded and very innovative spacecraft and others under development, that puts us in the leading position in Australia.
Every member of the team comes to the group with a range of experiences and skills. A lot of our team come from the big space. They've worked on those billion-dollar programs, and working on those programs helps you to understand what works and what doesn't work in space. We've also got engineers and scientists that are working on cutting-edge technologies, and they fit into the new space paradigm. Bringing those two groups together creates a creative tension, which is a really exciting environment to work in. We're currently developing a 3U spacecraft for the Royal Australian Air Force, which will carry out a maritime surveillance role. This spacecraft is being developed and qualified in a highly compressed time frame. At the same time, we're using the program to deliver educational outcomes for the Australian Defence Force. Our concurrent design facility is being set up as a national asset to support the design of space missions at their early stages. It fits into the growing ecosystem of space capability in Canberra and sit alongside the space test facilities of University of New South Wales' close partner, the Australian National University.
The Australian Government is looking to support and grow a domestic space industry in Australia to meet national needs. And that's actually created an opportunity for us. It's led to the creation of the commercial spin-off Skycraft. Together, UNSW Canberra Space and Skycraft are ideally positioned to remain Australia's leading space capability.
Skycraft brings to market Australia's most significant space capability for the design, testing, construction, in-flight operations of cube satellites and small satellites up to 150 kilograms. What Skycraft provides is the longevity. It's taking the spark and it's creating a commercial capability. UNSW Canberra has created the vision and the investment to create a unique space capability in Australia. Skycraft is going to take that capability and boost it to stratospheric heights by creating a self-sustaining space capability in Australia on the back of the university's vision and investment.
We as a team have a very strong experience in engineering, research and management of the big space sector and aerospace sector. So most of us have at least one successful space mission or aerospace mission in our careers. Internally we push towards innovation. I'm currently involved in a mission design that has a huge potential in developing Australia's potential in maritime and aerospace surveillance. I'm also designing an onboard data handling hardware that can serve a purpose as a future processing platform on satellite missions and also support various scientific experiments that are happening across Australian universities and research bodies. With this development, we are also working very closely with various Australian manufacturers to develop in-house capabilities for space-grade hardware manufacturing in Australia.
When it comes down to it, my research is really about trying to understand why objects in low Earth orbit aren't where they're supposed to be. And the key to that problem is aerodynamics. You see, aerodynamics is the largest non-conservative force on a low Earth object and also the least well understood. My research aims at trying to better understand the physics that underpins aerodynamics in low Earth orbit. To better understand the physics of aerodynamics in low Earth orbit, at UNSW Canberra, we combine state-of-the-art supercomputer simulations with world-leading ground-based experimental test facilities, such as what you see behind me, which is the Australian National University's Space Test Facility hosted at the Advanced Instrumentation and Technology Centre. We aim to develop a space situational awareness capability that is essential to meet the demands of the growing global space community. At the same time, this understanding will help provide new pathways and opportunities for UNSW Canberra Space and Australia to innovate in this growing sector.
We are confident of evolving into a one-stop solution for anything involving space research and space engineering in Australia. We hope to deliver cutting-edge research on the academic front, while also delivering high-value, rapid missions to our customers.
This is what I find so exciting about Skycraft. The breadth of applications is expansive. Space touches so many aspects of our daily lives. We're actively investigating new applications where we can create niche markets. For example, in defence, border protection, national security, water quality monitoring, forestry, precision agriculture. These are all applications that we can deliver on.
The most important part of the strategy to achieve our vision is to continue to invest in a world-class team, to focus on user needs, and to pursue niche areas of potentially disruptive comparative advantage for Australia.
Now let's take a look at what took place at the fantastic opening ceremony of the 68th Annual IAC.
In fact, this Congress is a gathering of all the space community worldwide, and this is why we have almost 5,000 participants coming from everywhere in the world. And what is new is probably that we have more and more people coming from the startup world, and so young people with new ideas, and it is why this Congress is going to be so exciting. The opening ceremony will be probably a very good opportunity for Australia to show to all the other participants what Australia is doing in the field of space, but also with a smell of tradition, because we will have a program with typical art, typical culture of Australia, and it will be a very, very huge gathering. The attendees will be very pleased to know exactly what's going on in space, but also with this new dimension of what is going on in Australia, because last time we were in Australia was in Melbourne in 1998, almost 20 years ago, and many things change in space, and many things change in Australia, and it's the right time to have a global overview of the situation.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter at websedge_edu to keep up with all the World Congress news, and feel free to join in on the conversation. Let's continue our tour of work being done around the world, pushing the boundaries of space exploration.
Being part of the MIT Space Systems Laboratory provides incredible opportunities. I don't think there's very many places that you can actually work to send your algorithms and control schemes to space to test. To be able to interact with the International Space Station, it's a remarkable opportunity.
Space systems encompasses any field of science or engineering that you can think of. We work with computers, with mechanics, with thermal engineering, propulsion. We specialize, but we can't ignore or leave out any of the subsystems.
You always have something new and challenging to work on, even if you've done something once, but the next time you do it, it's a little bit different. And the environment in space is not one that's really easy to work with. So there's always problems to solve, and I think that's what I love about it the most.
The Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics at MIT is in the School of Engineering, and here we really cover two bases. One is airplanes, aeronautics, as well as spacecraft. So what I like to think of is we're engineering, but we defy gravity. You can work with the International Space Station, you can build and fly your own UAVs, you work with astronauts. They really come out of their education now with a full experience of impacting the aerospace field. The MIT Space Laboratory is in the Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and we really focus on the space side.
We are the expert laboratory in systems engineering, putting all these complex systems together and teaching students what that means and how to make them work ultimately in space.
We give students here the opportunity to be hands-on with hardware. Through the REXUS project, where they're going to send their hardware to an asteroid through space for 2.5 years, to Spheres, where they're going to send their hardware up on station. These students are getting to work with the leaders in the aerospace industry on real hardware.
State-of-the-art technology with education is something we really need to marry. And we do that through our capstone class, where students get to design new technology that, surprisingly, actually we've been able to fly in orbit on station and to interplanetary missions.
We started this concept at the time truly innovative, the first ones to ever do it, CDIO, Conceive, Design, Implement, Operate. We began that in 1999. Since then, we've done the class about 10 times, and at least 4 of them have gone to space.
You get to experience what it's really like on a real high-profile NASA mission. You have to meet all those requirements that the other instruments have to meet. And so that whole experience is really invaluable in teaching you what real aerospace engineering is like.
My involvement with the projects that we have here at DSSL goes all the way from hardware level, actually crimping cables, screwing on satellite parts, all the way up to writing code for it.
From the start, I've been working with developing algorithms so that we can test our architecture in space. We interact with the astronauts live over video feed, and they unpackage our software, load it into the system, and run our tests. Being able to be a part of what is the whole picture going to look like, how are we going to develop the architecture, meet requirements. And I think these are really important skills that need to be developed and that I think I can take into my future career.
We, as a lab, have 3 main focus areas. On the one side, we work with computer models of how to develop space mission. Then we do a lot of ground test beds. We build things in the ground that we test in the laboratory. Proof of concept, can they work? The third step is things that go to space. For example, our Sphere satellites that are aboard the International Space Station. What Spheres is it is a test bed. MIT decided to use the space station not to test a complete mission, but to create a testing environment to do microgravity research in space. The Spheres program began at the MIT Space Systems Laboratory as a class in 1999. In 2006, it got up to the space station. In 2010, NASA and the DoD made the Spheres part of the ISS National Laboratory, making it truly a facility for everybody beyond MIT.
REXUS is an X-ray instrument that's on the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. The OSIRIS-REx spacecraft is going to explore this asteroid Bennu. NASA has put a little bit of money aside and said, let's see if universities can come up with a good instrument idea, and we started developing the REXUS instrument back in 2012. Rexus is going to look at the asteroid in the X-ray regime and tell us what the asteroid is made out of. So does it have iron, sulfur, or magnesium in the regolith, which is the dirt that's on the outside of the asteroid.
I started in Rexus when Rexus was part of the undergrad capstone class, and really the experience that I got in that class was so exciting that I decided to continue on Rexus for both my master's and now my PhD work. On the Rexus project, students did everything. We designed Rexus, we designed the test program, we implemented the test program, we physically built the hardware, as well as contributing to the scientific analysis of our data. As an X-ray spectrometer, we'll be the first instrument to get a look at the X-ray spectra that comes off the asteroid, which gives us unique insight into the elemental composition of the asteroid. And so we're getting data that no one's ever gotten before.
The Spheres program is educated several thousand students from all the way as young as 11 years old. We made a competition that is based on the students programming a player for an autonomous satellite. The best players in simulation get to send their code up to the space station. Students can say, I can send things to space. I can send my software to space.
Space Systems Lab and Star Lab are in a nice sweet spot. We work on missions that are small enough where we can hold them all in our hands and in our heads, but they're impactful and they fly.
It's constantly humbling to be around faculty members that are really excellent at what they do, whether they're NASA chief technologists or former secretaries of the Air Force. Just being able to learn from these people day to day make Aeroastro at MIT what it is.
All my life, when I was a kid or throughout undergrad, I always thought of MIT as being like this super cool place in which cutting-edge research was done. Now that I'm here, I can actually feel that your research can have a tremendous impact on the world.
The space industry is basically in a revolution. Space 2.0 it's been referred to. There's new launch vehicles, new companies. Things are moving from government to the private sector. Meanwhile, there is a revolution in small satellite technologies, nanosatellite technologies. And so it's sort of a new paradigm for both space exploration, Earth remote sensing, and space platforms. The Space Science Center at Morehead State University was an early adopter of nanosatellites, particularly CubeSats.
We have been able to meet and exceed all the needs to build a CubeSat. In other words, we've become a one-stop shop here. We've built all the infrastructure necessary to go from concept to final delivery, including all the environmental testing, the shake and bake, if you will, all the necessities of a clean room, all the electronic systems that are required to do this, as well as having the infrastructure here to communicate with them. We're very fortunate to have a 21-meter dish antenna. So we've come from very humble beginnings to being an internationally recognized force in the CubeSat business.
Morehead State University is a small regional university, about 10,000 students in Appalachian, Kentucky. We have outstanding staff that we brought in from all over, from the East Coast and the West Coast, from the aerospace and defense industries. And we've all sort of met here in the middle of the country to produce a pretty exciting program and research and development facility.
We really have all of the assets here, all of the connections to really attract aerospace businesses to want to work with us, and the students really benefit from that. They benefit from what I would call a real-world hands-on university.
The degree programs in space science at Morehead State University are based on hands-on experiences for the students. That means that you have to understand how to design, build, fabricate spacecraft and spacecraft subsystems. So the hands-on experiences that students get are invaluable.
The students play such a vital role in our production of our projects here at the Space Science Center. We have to use all hands that are on deck. Everybody that's in the building will have a job no matter what. Even if you're just a first day freshman, we can put you somewhere for sure. And so that gives great opportunities for the underclassmen to develop their skills as they grow through our program.
They're really got their hands into something to make real things work. And I think every one of them, before they get out of this program, even with a a bachelor's degree, have had their hands on a satellite that went into space. Now that's pretty cool.
The Space Science Center has flown to date 7 space missions. They've ranged from 1U CubeSats that were technology demonstrations through larger spacecraft like microsatellites and 6U spacecraft that we're working on now, which is a lunar mission. In fact, that's probably the coolest thing that we've done, which is the Lunar Ice Cube mission. It's actually a NASA mission, but it's led by Morehead State University and its partners. We're all working together to build a small suitcase-sized spacecraft that's going to get a ride to Earth escape on the maiden voyage of the Space Launch System, NASA's big rocket that's under development.
I'm on the flight software team, so I primarily work with our flat sat. That's working with the emulators and the SDUs to start to get everything talking to our CNDH.
We're going to orbit the moon for about a year and map the distribution of water ice to try to understand the transport physics to see where water ends up. We're going to study the universe from this incredible platform, and to do that you have to live and work on the lunar environment. So we'd really like to understand the water, where it is and how it's distributed on the moon.
The fact that as an undergrad student you get to participate and work with NASA is unbelievable. Our resumes after we graduate just with a bachelor's degree is incredible.
We've had a unique opportunity presented to us by NASA JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena, California. They're the creators and managers of what is known as the Deep Space Network. We were invited to join as the first ever external organization to become part of the Deep Space Network.
This opens up a larger window into space where we can monitor satellites and other cosmic bodies that are not only past our Earth and past our moon, but interplanetary in itself.
They may be willing in the future to bring other stations on, and we'll serve as sort of the test case or hallmark by which the others can perhaps copy the things we've done, not repeat the mistakes we've made, and perhaps shortcut to the successes we hope to enjoy.
It's been great to have the Jet Propulsion Laboratory people come and talk to us. Our students get a lot of experience that way. They get to see really the inner workings and how it's done in real life.
It's important for Morehead State University to develop the pipeline of students entering in the undergraduate degree program. Our summer programs include Space Trek, which is an all-girls space camp. Some like to call it a boot camp. It's a very rigorous camp where we bring in 24 girls across the state of Kentucky, rising into their 10th grade years. And these girls come in having never seen a resistor before in some cases, and they build an entire scientific instrument, launch it from the roof of the Space Science Center, and pull down data in real time. What often happens is that girls find a true passion for electronics, telecommunications, and space science.
Turns out that aerospace is the #1 industry in the state of Kentucky. We're not producing scientists and engineers at the rate that the aerospace industry needs to even maintain the current workforce. So I think that's our most important mission at the Space Science Center, is to produce the next generation of scientists and engineers that can support the aerospace and defense workforces in the United States.
How do we create the next generation of space pioneers? How are we going to build that starship? How are we going to colonize Mars? How do we do that? How do we infuse in our future generations the intellect and the experience to be able to do that? USC has believed for some time now that in order to answer these questions, we really have to think differently and create an educational environment different so that we can innovate and educate, and they, in essence, have pioneered the methodology by which a department is now specialized in astronautics.
This is one of the very few universities in the country, in fact in the world, with this particular distinction. Since 2004, the program has awarded more than 500 master's degrees But more importantly, astronautics is an area where, and space is an area where it's very interdisciplinary. So in addition to people that study, let's say, propulsion as well as control in space, you also have people that are interested in the area of electronics, aviation, computer science, GPS, many other things that are very useful in both the launching and as well as the ultimately deployment in space.
The breadth of the kinds of projects that we're able to execute here span the range from literally building and launching our own rockets from the university to building a lunar lander simulator that utilized a JetCat engine, an RC turbine engine that took out gravity, to building the first 2 satellites that in USC's history that occurred here at the CERC. All were done with the infusions of students as well as professional industry experts, not only from within the university, but also from outside in industry that are working in the field today.
Last semester, I took a class with a woman who worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab. At the end of the semester, she actually brought the class in so that we could take a tour of JPL. And for me, that was really cool because it sort of reaffirmed that this is what I want to do, this is where I want to work.
We did a tour at Virgin Galactic, and we were able to talk to the engineers and really ask them specific questions about stuff we had learned in the course. So it was really nice to see that what we had learned in our lecture was actually directly applicable to what they're doing in industry today.
You come in and you spend hours and hours working on a design. Then you spend hours building one piece, it's not up to par, you have to scrap it and try again until you build this perfect vehicle. You know, you only get to see it for like 5 seconds until it's past the clouds, but it's just an amazing feeling to just see all of your hard work go up and just really hope that it turns out great. And when it does, it's just an amazing feeling.
The Liquid Propulsion Laboratory is currently collaborating with a Japanese university called the Kyushu Institute of Technology to build a suborbital flight vehicle, which we are providing the propulsion system for. So that's really showing how we're really expanding our capabilities, and there's really something for any discipline here.
We have professional engineers from industry as well as faculty that take on real projects that have schedules and costs and project deliverables that have to be done, where students come in and are supported essentially as residents that are putting their hands on hardware to actually build the next generation spacecraft.
On campus we have this ground station antenna that's able to, it's a 4.5 meter dish that's able to track signals from satellites. So the first project I was working on was operating that system to be able to track different satellites that are passing overhead over Los Angeles.
Southern California is the heart of the aerospace industry, and that's something that we treasure a lot, and we thought that gives us a competitive advantage, as well as offering a talent that can be absorbed by the local industry.
We offer a business model, if you will, for both a unique attribute for students to train before they go to industry, where there really is no liability to industry, but they get the hands-on skill sets that truly is needed to replenish the U.S. engineering workforce in space.
It's a remarkable student group, very interdisciplinary, and we look forward to getting bigger and stronger in this very important part of future endeavor, both in engineering as well as for the world at large.
So let's hit the conference floor and find out what brings you to the IAC.
All the years we assist to this conference
because we are trying to find the state of the art of the space industry. Our case is an example of how we can integrate international collaboration in the space domain. So for that reason we are here, and for that reason we are here to connect with the space community and to have opportunities to know the knowledge of the space.
I feel like this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have so many delegates attend, and so many people from NASA and the European Space Agency, etc. It's just absolutely amazing. Words can't actually describe how exciting it is, to be honest.
This conference as a whole is such a huge gathering of people from around the world in terms of government, space agencies, industries and things like that. It's just a great opportunity to learn what's going on in the field right now and to bring that back into my work, which is evaluating programs and how well they're doing in the United States.
IAC is a place where we can get to interact with all the space agencies all over the world and people who are working in space aviation as well as, and I'm looking forward to a very fruitful interaction where I get to know about the latest development in the space research.
That's it for today, but we'll be back each day of the Congress with more exclusive material. In the meantime, remember you can watch the show all over the Convention Centre, in your hotel room and on YouTube. And don't forget to keep up with all the latest developments and get in touch via the web. We'll see you tomorrow.